Welcome back to our 90-minute news program. Well, the country continues to process the recent stock market rally, the biggest by any country in the last 5 years. As we continue to track this development, we expand on how this will benefit the country. What impact will it have on consumers? What does it mean for investment and the general economy? Our special panelist this evening is the chairman of the Economic Growth Council, Michael Lichin. Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
What does this mean? What does this really mean for the man in the street?
Firstly, this, over the last 5 years, the Jamaican Stock Exchange has given investors the best results in the world relative to all other stock exchanges. Now, when a stock market goes up, it indicates that there is confidence. It indicates that there's liquidity in the system, and it indicates that the economy will follow in the future. So it's a predictor of where the economy is going. So from the standpoint of the Economic Growth Council, we have just, Statin has just reported 2.2% GDP growth, which is the most it has in many decades. When we announced 5% as the aspiration, people thought that was crazy. But we're halfway there, and the better part of the growth is yet to come, as being indicated by the stock market performance, which, as I said, is a precursor, is a predictive tool as to where the economy is going.
What makes you so confident about increased growth coming?
Because all the factors are present for a great investment environment. Number one, Jamaica is awash with liquidity. The banks have a lot of money to lend. Number two, interest rates are low. Interest rates are at a historical low. We are experiencing now what in the States they call quantitative easing, which after the financial crisis in 2008, they dropped interest rates significantly so that the citizens could borrow and invest in assets, borrow and renovate their home, borrow and buy stocks, borrow and invest in businesses to get the economy going. So we are now at that point, and we have seen what has happened to the U.S. economy. So we have just flipped that switch.
But a lot of persons will say that stocks are alien to them. That
Yes.
Mr. Lichin is good because he flies all over the world and he has his stocks and invests all over the world.
Yes.
But we're struggling just to get even a little cash out of the banks or out of the lending institutions. We can't get into the stock market. That's for rich people. That's not for us. What do you say to people like those people?
Well, firstly, there are 100,000 Jamaicans who are registered in private pension funds. Those private pension funds are participating in the stock market. So they're becoming wealthier. So we are indirectly becoming wealthier through our pension funds, firstly. Secondly, the NIS has 400,000 participants. NIS is also invested in the stock market. So indirectly, 400,000 Jamaicans are becoming more wealthy. So when it's time for them to retire, the pie will be larger for them to get a better income. So they are participating indirectly now. But what we would like to see is a wholesale participation by every single Jamaican. And the stock market is beautiful because you can buy $100 stock. If it's $50, you buy 100 stock, that's $55,000. You can buy shares in the market. A share represents a piece of a business. It's an ownership of a business. So we as Jamaicans, we have to get into the habit of owning assets, because wealth is created by owning assets, whether a piece of a business, your home, real estate, or stocks.
Earlier, we had the minister on, and he was talking about investment projects that are coming on. Does this performance on the stock market make Jamaica more attractive to international investors?
Well, from the standpoint, I give you an experience I had in 2007. I was being given an award in Harlem, Manhattan, New York, by the Abyssinian Baptist Church. And the Reverend Calvin Butts, when he was making the announcement, he said, "Did you realize that in the last 40 years, there's only been one high school built in Harlem? And it was not built by the federal government. It was not built by the state government nor the city government. It was built by the Abyssinian Baptist Church. So the Abyssinian Baptist Church has been at the center of the gentrification of Harlem for over the last 40 years. And now that Harlem is being gentrified, and because Harlem has such excellent location, it's in the middle of Manhattan, it abuts Central Park. The wider community, because it's being gentrified, the wider community is now investing in Harlem. And over the last 10 years, real estate price has gone up by 10 times. When I heard that, I said, oh my gosh, we're working hard to gentrify Jamaica. Jamaica has excellent location, no different from Harlem in Manhattan. Once we gentrify Jamaica, the wider community, foreign investors are going to say, my gosh, we should be investing in Jamaica, which is now happening. So, and if we do not own a part of Jamaica, the foreigners will come in and buy up Jamaica. No different from what happened to the Harlemites, because the Harlemites were not owners of assets. They didn't own. So when the price went up, they did not participate. So I got scared, and I said to myself, when I go back to Jamaica, every time I'm going to say to Jamaicans, my people, buy assets, own assets, or else we're going to be displaced by international investors.
How do you see government supporting a policy to just step a little bit away from the stock market? How do you see the government supporting what you're saying by enabling Jamaicans to own assets? What policies would the government have to do to enable Jamaicans to earn more of the place that they call home?
Well, firstly, the fact that interest rates are low is a fantastic opportunity for all. The government now needs to do a better job at getting titles out to invest, to homeowners or landowners. Okay. Because with your title, you can go and you have a hard asset. You can now borrow, you can borrow and build a house, you can borrow and renovate your house, you can borrow and invest. So the main thing we need to do is to get the titles office moving so we can get titles in the hands of more Jamaicans.
Earlier you said that the banks now have a lot of money to lend, but
yes.
This performance of the stock market providing an alternative for financing of local businesses. What impact will that have on the banks?
Well, remember the banks are diversified financial institutions. So the banks also have a capital markets business. So they will mediate the flow of capital, right? So between borrowers, lenders, and investors. That's the function of the banks and its capital market division. So it will also encourage other businesses to get listed on the private businesses to get listed on the stock market, so that more capital can be raised to expand the business and increase GDP growth.
You asked us to believe in 5 and 4.
Yes.
And for a while it seemed a little sluggish.
Very much so.
What has this stock market performance done to 5 and 4?
Well, firstly, this report by Bloomberg, remember what the report said? Over the last 5 years, the Jamaican Stock Exchange was the best performing in the world, #1 in the world, by a long leap. 233% cumulative return. The next was 86%. So what does this mean to growth in Jamaica? #1, it means that Jamaicans, firstly, the businesses are doing better. They're investing, they're showing more profits, right? That's the reason why the stock market went up. It means that the government is collecting more taxes. First thing. #2, we are just, because asset values are still cheap in Jamaica, the value of our properties in Jamaica, if we lifted our property and parachuted our properties into Cayman, the property will be worth 4 times immediately. So asset values are very cheap in Jamaica with the low interest rates and the stable economy. We are now having a revaluation of our asset values. Hence, your home is going up in value, your business is becoming more valuable, etc. Consumers are becoming more confident, so they'll spend more. investors, Jamaican investors and foreign investors are becoming more confident, so they'll invest more. So we'll now have an acceleration of our GDP growth. So 2.2% will now be the base. 5% is within hailing distance.
Well, I mean, people keep telling us the metrics are in the right place, everything is going well, inflation is down, employment. But is it trickling down to the man on the street? Are they beginning to feel this prosperity?
Well, we have to do a better job at making sure that we encourage the man in the street, the average person, to invest and own assets. Then they'll participate. And the stock market is a wonderful place because you don't have to have much money to participate. But what we need to teach our population is investing is a long-term endeavor, and we should be doing it consistently. We in Jamaica, we have not been very good savers in the past. We need to number one, start tightening our belts a little bit tighter, and not only save in the banks, but also buy shares in assets, in businesses.
Give me a little insight into the mind of investors. So Jamaica looking on would be for a before and after report like this, or before, I mean, would Jamaica even feature on the radar of investors looking on? People glued to Bloomberg screens. Would Jamaica feature at all?
No, there's no need. There would be any. Every time you look at Bloomberg, you Google Jamaica, it's about either the economy, either crime or tourism, or something tourism related. Not that Jamaica is a very fertile place to create wealth. The Bloomberg is ubiquitous. It's in every stock brokerage office throughout the world. So now every stockbroker can pull up this information, and in fact they'll see it. So in fact, I've had numerous calls in Canada as to how do I participate in this. So when foreign investors start putting money into Jamaica, into our stock market, companies will now have more capital that they can access, and they can now expand, which means our GDP growth. We'll have more production, which means our GDP growth will increase.
Of course, the government has to be very careful. We have certainly not tread this particular path, but we have had instances in the past. Back in '93, the Jamaican stock market was also #1 in the world.
No, it was 2003, 2004. When I came back, after I bought the National Commercial Bank, we started investing in equities in 2003, 2004. And because of our leadership, others started investing, and the Jamaican stock market was the #1 stock market in 2003 or 2004.
Awesome. What do you do? I remember the incident where it was back a long time, back in '93. And
that predates me, Richard.
I understand. I know you're not that old.
Right, exactly.
But it was built on the back of an inflationary bubble.
Yes.
Is that something that investors would recognize? Would you think that would affect how persons look on a Jamaican market?
Well, this is something that one has to be, eventually, if you have too much capital chasing too few assets, you'll get a bubble. And we have to make sure that we prevent bubbles. So to prevent bubbles, we need more assets to invest in. Because right now the challenge is there's a lot of liquidity, and there are few good assets to invest in. We need to make sure that we bring on more, take more companies from being private to public, give more opportunities, infrastructure. I know renewable energy. Wigton is coming on stream. Right. Again, that will be another asset to sop up money. But we have to be careful that we don't get overvalued. But we're a long way from that, because the stock market, although it has gone up significantly, it's still not priced as relatively high given to other countries or markets.
You keep saying that people should get involved, participate.
Yes.
Is this a good time to get in?
This is an excellent time to be investing. I'm not selling. When I sell, when I'm selling, then you should say, man, if Mr. Leach is selling, I better look to go run also.
Coming back to the government, how has, and as from your perch as chairman of the EGC, how receptive is this administration? And I imagine you'd have conversations with opposition members as well,
yes,
and certainly civil service and civil service agencies. How receptive are they, or have they been, or are you about to start these conversations to this type of news and how it's going to impact on policy generally?
Very, very receptive. In fact, I spoke to the Minister of Finance on Thursday, and I said, Nigel, you know what we should be doing? We should be having a billboard at all our ports of entry with showing that chart with the Jamaica Stock Exchange is up here and everyone down here. So that when tourists, the 2.4 million tourists come in, they say, wow, I didn't see Jamaica as an investment haven. So we have traffic. We want to make sure that we change the narrative as to how they see Jamaica. That's the first thing. We have to start marketing our successes. Very receptive. Secondly, what there's pension reform that is about to happen, and in my last quarterly update, I implored the Minister of Finance to sign the reform because there's a lot of long-term capital locked in to pension funds, incarcerated in pension funds that should be unincarcerated, freed to be invested in long-term projects, infrastructure, toll roads, etc. We Jamaicans should be owning our infrastructure, and we have the capital locked up in pension funds. So once that is unlocked, that again will be another avenue of growth. We have had this growth without with negligible government participation in terms of capital expenditures, because the government just didn't have any fiscal space. But as we get our debt to GDP down, and one way to get debt to GDP down quicker is to accelerate the denominator, which is to get growth. Then the government will have more fiscal space. They can now spend more on roads, etc., construction, employment, and that will, again, accelerate GDP. So what we have seen so far in terms of 2.2 is basically without the catalyst from government. Every other country, to get their economy going, the government would have the fiscal space to catalyze infrastructure spending. Okay. We have done it without.
Okay. So one quick thing, 5.4 is on. 5 in 4 is on. 5 in 4? Yes.
Did you think it was off?
Some people thought so.
Well, we're halfway there. We're in hailing distance, and the best is yet to come.
Michael Lichin, the chairman of the Economic Growth Council. Thank you for joining us.
You're welcome.
We take a break on CVM Live. We'll be right back.